Hi, let's have a look at this info strip up at the top. This is the last zone of Cubase that we have yet to deal with. Top left hand corner, undo and redo. Don't get into the habit of using these buttons. Learn Control Z, Control Shift Z. You'll use it all the time, and once you've got it under your fingers, it's really easy. You undo stuff so often that learn the keyboard command. This is the media bay. We'll have a full tutorial on the media bay. Really important central feature of Cubase. This is the pool window. Again, something that is very important, but only comes into its own when we start doing audio recording. So when we deal with audio and how we process and manage our audio, we'll get into the pool then. The mix console is completely central to any songwriting process, and the fact that you've got access to this full screen one this is great. Having this lower zone is great, and I use it a lot. But there are many times when I want the editor open and I'm dealing with MIDI information and I want to see the mixer as well. And in that case, I'll open the mixer panel and throw it over onto the second monitor, and then I've got the best of both worlds. Don't use the control room at all. That's not for me. And I don't use direct offline processing. It's something that I'll need to learn, but I haven't learned it yet. And what we're dealing with at the moment is how I write music right now. You don't need to learn it. That's the bottom line. Deactivating all mute states can be useful. If you've got loads of stuff muted all over the place, that just shuts them all down. Same with solo. If you have read automation enabled on lots of tracks, this can just turn it all off straight away. Same with write. That's both read and write automation. Suspend them all at once. We'll deal with automation another time. That's a fairly big subject. This button here is really important. If you're working on a project and it's quite big and you're scrolling off the page quite regularly, then when we make changes, as soon as we interact with the main screen at all, watch the song cursor, and it's gone. It's gone because it's identified, Cubase has identified that we are editing while the song's playing. As soon as you do that, it suspends auto scroll and this button turns orange. And if you want it to turn back on again, just press the button and you'll get your scroll back again. Do that again. The moment I click anywhere in that project window to interact with it in a meaningful way, it suspends auto scrolling. So get used to using that button. Here we can set some auto scrolling options, but I just leave it with the defaults. Page scroll and suspend auto scroll when editing. That's the option that we've just seen in action. All of these tools, well, up to the comp tool, all of these are critically important and you need to learn each and every one of them. Okay, not the zoom tool so much. I do zooming in other ways, but everything else, yeah, all absolutely critical. We'll deal with them all separately. So these are all these are how you interact with the song in terms of selecting ranges and selecting individual parts and creating new parts with the pencil tool. Cutting stuff up, gluing it back together, blah blah blah. We've already seen the colour palette, so if I wanted to, for whatever reason, make that part red, there you go. Okay, so that's now wrong. That's offending my eyes because that's the colour reserved to the bass guitar. It wouldn't let me drag that. This is an instrument event, so this is currently destined to hold MIDI information. It can't be dragged onto an audio track, which the bass guitar is. Don't worry about project root key, more trouble than it's worth. Snap to zero crossing, yep, we'll need that when we come to deal with audio, really important. Snap on and off, again, really important. Snap is, if I create, let's just shut the thing down. If I create a part, see my pencil, if I click in the middle of this part, of these two lines, it creates it at the nearest line it can. It's snapping to the nearest line it can. If I turn snap off, it'll create it exactly where I click. Okay, you're turning snap on and off all the time. It's a very important tool. Learn how to use it. And also grid and grid relative are both very important features that we need to understand. When we pick something up and move it in grid mode, if I drag this up to the track below, you can't drag something up to a track below. See, it's toggling between those two. If I undo that and now go to grid relative, when I drag it down, its offset will always be relative to the original offset, wherever that may have been. That's really, really useful. If you're dealing with an audio part that isn't, the start of the event isn't on a bar line, then you need to be in grid relative mode so that when you drag it onto a different track, it's actually at the same point in the song. If it's in grid mode, the audio gets moved across and now it's out of time. So it depends on whether or not your events are aligned to the lines of the current song position, or whether or not they're freeform. Both have their uses, both really important. This box over here I have set to adapt to zoom. It's basically how many lines, how many grid lines you see on the window. Adapt to zoom means it's constantly sensible. This was a new feature in probably 9, Cubase version 9, I think adapt to zoom came around, or maybe 9.5. Absolutely brilliant, never look back, use it all the time. The rest of them, just, yeah, they're there. Look into them if you want, just I use adapt to zoom all the time. This is the quantize value. 1/16 is a great place to be. Quantize is a huge subject, we'll deal with that separately. And then we'll deal with iterative quantize, not to worry about that. And these buttons up here, really useful. That's the left hand panel. This is for your lower zone. And this is for the right hand zone. Not really dealt with the right hand zone very much. I never touch it. It used to be really important in previous versions of Cubase. I very, very rarely look at it now. It's closed almost all the time. It's basically where all of your VST instruments live. But there are other ways to get at most of this information, and that's just real estate, screen real estate that I just don't need to see. All of this stuff we will deal with. A lot of it I do use occasionally, but not enough to worry about at this kind of introductory level. The little cog buttons, as always, are where you can set up the information that you want to see according to your taste. But that's what I use, and I use almost all of those almost all of the time. So that's it for the main view of the front page. That's all you need to know to get up and running. And if we go to File, Save as Template, then you can create as many templates as you want with different config information for your different projects. And once you've selected it and say OK, then if I clicked overwrite, that would now be my new default project template, which I'm obviously not going to do. That's it. And then from that point onwards, each time you come to create a new song, you'll get that template there, double click it, and you'll get all of that information for free. So that's the default template dealt with. And from this point onwards, we're now going to start diving into the functionality of Cubase itself. We're going to start actually creating data and starting to see some of the idiosyncrasies and the other options that I've set inside the application to make Cubase work for me. So hopefully I'll see you then. Thanks very much for watching.